Okay, guys, now let's understand the compilation of these programs. I'll just revise what these the classes we implemented, which we had discussed in our previous session. But let's revise it a bit, and then we will continue with the today's session with the understanding of compilation and execution of the program. Now we have got two classes. We are implementing an account system. So account entity from our system is what we are representing here using the class account, right? So in this class account, we have got the account entity has got two important attributes or properties, you can say. Those two are account number and balance. So the attributes will go as a values in the class, and the operations which that entity supports, those operations we have implemented here in the form of methods. So every method definition has return type. If the method is not returning anything, then the return type would be void. But every method definition need to have these three sections: return type, then the name of the method, and the parameter list, right? So whether the method will have the parameter list or not will depend upon whether that particular operation requires any external data or not. If it requires any external data to be sent while calling, it will have the parameter, otherwise it will not have, right? So deposit amount, withdraw amount, these two operations, they need the external data to be sent, hence they both of them are having the parameters, whereas this get balance doesn't need any external data, hence it doesn't have the parameter list, but still the empty parentheses are required to be there, right? So these three things are important to define any method. Now this get balance is returning us the value from this balance variable. So balance variable is of type double, hence this method is set to be returning a double data, hence the return type of the method is double, right? So this is the simple implementation we have created of our account class. Now here in this particular class, this is a entry point of our system. Like every system has got some entry point, so from where the execution of the system starts. Usually in the web applications or the applications which we usually encounter with, they have the login module to start with, right? So that is the entry point for those applications. This is our simple Java application which has this class as its entry point. So what this class is doing, here we have implemented a class, this account class, and this now main class, we will call it it as a main class because this class contains the main method. So the class which starts the our execution of our system is also called as main class containing the main method. Okay, so here we are creating two different objects. First object ACT1. So when the object would be created in the memory, what will happen? Account number, balance, these two variables would be created in the memory, and their memory references will go in this ACT1 variable. When this object would be created, again separate copies, mind this very well, separate copies of these two variables would be created, and their references would be stored in this ACT2. Now we are making use of the balance variable of ACT1. So we are accessing the balance copy of from ACT1 object, and we are assigning it value 1000, and then we are calling the method deposit amount. So this deposit amount method is taking one argument, that is 1000. Here I am sending as an argument which would be received in this parameter amount, and what it is doing is it is adding that value into the balance variable. But which object's balance variable copy to be used, that we need to mention, right? Because like when we have now the two objects created, we have got two copies of balance created in our memory. So out of those two, which objects copy of balance we need to use here in order to add this 1000 into it, right? So hence we need to pass in the reference of object while calling the methods if the methods are working with the instance variables. Instance variable means those variables the copies of which get created for every new instance of the class you create. Instance is object. Okay, so if you create one more object ACT3, then again is account number and balance variable would be created. Separate copies of these two variables would be created, and the references would be stored in that ACT3, right? So these two are the instance variables, and these methods work with the instance variables. Hence, while calling them, we need to send in the reference of an object so that the copies of that particular object, the reference of which we have sent while calling the method, would be worked on inside the method. Right, now we are going to compile these two classes. Now let's compile. Let's start. Now open a CMD and just confirm that the Java C is accessible to us. So Java C, the path of this Java C. So I have the Java installed on my machine over here, students, and over here I have my Java installed. I'll just show you that here. JDK bin. So this bin folder contains all the all the applications which we need to access while developing the Java applications and running them. Like very important is Java C, the compiler, this Java which will start the JVM and will run the program. So we need to access this Java C. Now if we want to access this Java C without specifying the full path of it, then we need to have this bin folder added into the path environment variable, which we all have already done. Now Java C, my Java C, I'm able to access the Java C. I'm just confirming it by pressing enter. So if you do not have the bin folder path added in your path environment variable, then simply mentioning Java C will give you an error. Java C is not internal or external command, but we already have the bin folder path set, so we are able to access it. Now Java C, and now let's compile our account system demo. That is the main class. Let's compile it. We are going to have the errors there, but we are going to understand those errors now one by one. Now let's everyone please do with me and let me know whether you guys are getting the same errors as now I'll start getting. Okay, so you guys do it parallelly with me. So we need to mention the path of the file, our Java file, Java programs, and account system demo. I'm compiling demo.java first, means this file first. This file I'm compiling, and not this one. I'm compiling this account system. Account demo is the name of a class, but the name of the file is account system demo. Okay, so I'm compiling this. Now also one more point, if you have spaces in the name of your directory where you have saved your program, or in the name of the file itself, then enclose the path within double quotes. It's always a good practice to enclose the path in double quotes, but your path, if it contains the spaces, then it becomes compulsory. Otherwise it's not mandatory. Like if you do not have the spaces in the name of either in the folder or in the file, then the mentioning the path in the double quotes, it's not mandatory. But if the spaces are there, then it is mandatory. But it's always good practice to mention the path in the double quotes even if you have the spaces or not. Enter. Yes. Now I'll just change my actually I have the class path set, hence the problem, but you guys are going to get the different error. I'll show you what errors you guys are supposed to get. Now what I'm doing is I'm just simply deleting this class path environment variable what I have, because of which I'm getting this error which I'm not expecting to get. So I'm again compiling cmd Java C in the double quotes and account system demo.java. Yes, this is the error we are expecting. Cannot find symbol. Now we are going to understand this error, cannot find symbol. So Let's understand the compilation process line by line, like how the compilation is being done. Like this file we are compiling now. So what compiler does, it checks every line from your file against two things. One, whether the syntactical rules of Java are being followed there or not, like naming conventions, not naming conventions, but whatever the rules are set for naming the variables, the classes, like the class name, variable name should not start with numbers or any special character. Only underscore special character is allowed. So whatever these rules are mentioned, whether the names are according to those rules or not, that is the syntactical rules. In short, it checks every line against. Also the semantic means the context, what are we doing here, and whether the words mentioned there in that in that line, whether they are really in line with what we are trying to do. So we are defining a class here, class account demo. So this line is absolutely fine. So it need to know the meaning of every word mentioned there in your program, the compiler. Okay, then only it would be able to compile it successfully. Then here public, it's we are going to talk about what public is, but it's again a keyword. Public static is a keyword, void is a keyword. This is the name of the method main, and this is a parameter of type string array args. Okay, so again it will check whether this line is every symbol mentioned there, it is able to understand the symbol or not. Now the problem is over here. Now if you see the error closely, what we are getting on the command prompt, it is saying cannot find symbol, and we get the caret which is pointing to this symbol. And this is what it is indicating, that it is not able to find this symbol. What is it? Because this account symbol is neither a keyword from Java, this is not the class which is defined in the Java libraries which compiler has access to. So it is not able to understand the meaning of this symbol. That is what this error says, right? So in simple words, the compiler is not able to understand the meaning of the symbol. So it understood that the context of the line is we are the context of this line is we are creating an object of a class, but it need to know, like where is the compiled code of this class, so that it can go and check whether that class is is correct or not, and whether this kind of an object can be created of that class or not, right? So it need to know the meaning of it. Meaning of it means the compiled version of this class is what it requires to understand this symbol. And we do not have this class compiled as yet. Like this class we have not yet compiled in its bytecode. Is the compiled version of a class. Once we say java c space and path of the Java file, we get the bytecode, the compiled version of the class. So we have not got yet the compiled version of this class because we haven't yet compiled it, right? We have started our compilation with this class, right? So that's why it is not able to understand what this symbol is. Now in order to fix this issue, what we need to do is we need to first compile our account.java. So I'll just simply compile account.java first. So as soon as I compile account.java, this one, everything is fine here, like class, like I'm trying to define my own class. I'm sticking to the syntactical rules which are mentioned, prescribed by the Java language. So there is no problem here in this line. I'm defining integer variable, double variable here. I'm defining the method here, void return type. This is the name, and this name is also according to the rules prescribed parameter. So there is no problem here. I'm not using any user defined class here, so hence the compiler doesn't have any problem in understanding each and every symbol mentioned here. Each and every symbol mentioned here in this class is either a keyword, or we are trying to define some variable or method which is also according to the syntactical rules, right? So there is no problem here. So we got this class file compiled, this class compiled successfully, and we got the class file created. You can see there is one more file got created here, the type of which is class file, and This is the Java file, the source file, account, and the type of which is Java file. After compilation, successful compilation of which we got this account.class file. So we got the bytecode of this class. So this class file contains the compiled version, the bytecode. This is the bytecode, okay, of the class. Now we have got what we were looking for. Now let's try compiling our account system demo. Now it should be able to compile, right? Because we have got the bytecode of the account class. Now let's see what happens. But still we are facing the issue, isn't it? We got the account.java file compiled and we got it, compiled, and everything is fine now, but still the compiler is complaining about the same error. Why? Now let's understand why. Very important point this is, guys. Seriously speaking, like when it comes to setting up the execution environment for your test automation, it becomes critical. The understanding of these points becomes really critical. Now what I'll do is CLS, and what I'm doing is I'm compiling this file account system demo.java. So when it is reaching to this line, it is trying to search for the bytecode of this symbol. Okay, where it will search for the bytecode of this symbol, account.class. In short, it will try to search for account symbol either in this file which we are compiling, or it will first search it, this particular symbol it will search in the keyword list of Java. It will not find it obviously over there. It will search for it in the library class of Java. There also it will not find it, because this is the class which we have defined, right? So then it will search for this account class here in this file itself, whether it is defined over here, so that it can compile it first and then it can resume the compilation on this line, but it is also not here. Then it will search for the account.class in this working directory, C users admin. C users admin is the directory from where we are compiling our program, but it will not find it over here. So what now? So now we need to tell our compiler, right? So it tried searching for that symbol wherever it was possible from its side, but it didn't get that symbol anywhere. Now we know that where that symbol is, like we know that where the bytecode of this account class lying on our machine, right? So we need to tell it to the compiler, no? Like how the compiler will know that, okay, whatever the user defined symbols it will encounter in the process of compilation of the file, where it should go and find the bytecode of those symbols, right? So how would it know that? So for that we need to set class path. I am just starting my virtual keyboard because few of the keys from my keyboard are not working. So here what I am doing is hyphen, that is dash cp. Cp stands for class path, and we need to mention the path of this directory. Again, if any of the folder from that path contains the spaces, then the path is required to be mentioned inside the double quotes. But to be on the safer side, I'm mentioning the path in the double quotes. Every path, if you have a habit of this, like whenever it comes to mentioning the path in the command prompt, always have a habit of mentioning it in the double quotes, so that if you have the spaces, then it will not create a problem for you, right? So what this command has become now, Java C. Then we are setting the class path. Now class path means the path, this path, where all the user defined symbols, bytecodes, the compiler will get. And then using those definitions of those user defined symbols, it will now compile this file of ours. Okay. And now I'll enter. Now here, okay, now here again we have got the problem. It is saying cannot find symbol, but which symbol it is not able to find, let's understand. Now here ACT1, it's absolutely fine. Now if you see, the name of the variable is balance, which is small, BALANCE, everything is small, right? But I have accessed it with capital letter here. That's the problem. So it is saying that it checked the bytecode of this account class, and it checked that the name of the variable, so the name, so it didn't find the name of the variable same as that of we are using it here. So we have to understand that the name of the variables, name of the methods, what you will use while calling them or accessing the variables, they should be as is the way they have been defined in the class, right? So here I just need to make this be small, save it, CLS. Now, if I have any error, then we will see. Otherwise, it will now able to compile successfully. Now, deposit amount in a class account cannot be applied to given types, right? So the problem is that here we have the deposit amount method in our account class, which requires one argument because it has a parameter defined, right? So what this operation is saying, I rely on some external data to be sent. Without that external data, I cannot work. I cannot work, right? So it is mentioning the parameter here. And while calling the method, if you see, while calling the method, we are not sending anything, isn't it? We are not sending anything. So the compiler is saying you are calling a method by not sending anything. So it just checked here in this class, in the bytecode of this class, whether it has any method defined like void deposit amount and which doesn't require any parameter. But it didn't find it, right? Obviously, because it checked the for something like this. I'll just show you. So it checked for the definition of method like this, like deposit amount and which doesn't require any parameter. So do we have this method? No, we don't have, right? We have only one version of the deposit amount method which requires the parameter. And that's the reason why it is saying that it cannot be applied to given types. Means you are sending, I mean, you are calling with no arguments, you are calling with no arguments, and then it is saying actual and formal argument list differ in length, meaning the argument you are sending, you are not sending anything, but the definition of the method asks for one. So there is no match it has found in this area of the method, right? So that's the error. So here we can send in the value and now CLS. Now our compilation is successful. Now we should know all these errors, guys. Now when you work with Eclipse, let's say, and do this, so Eclipse immediately gives us the problem over there. Like it mentions that that error prone line. It makes it red. Like, I mean, it draws one red line below that, and when you hover on that line, it gives you the resolutions of those problems. And this creates a hell lot of problems for the people when they are asked to when they are asked to create the batch files for the execution and put it into the Jenkins for the execution, right? Why? Because people are not aware of all these errors. Like if they try to run it and they start getting this cannot find symbol and all those kinds of errors, then if these errors they had not been encountered, they had no encountered with in their at the time of the development, then they won't be able to understand what the resolution now should be for the all these things. Are you getting my point? So this is very critical, and this has become very critical since now the execution, like in older days, it used to be from Eclipse also. Like few of the test cases, now if you wanted to run, then you can opt to run them from within the Eclipse as well. So it was quite fine some time back. But now, as because of this CI/CD and all that stuff, Jenkins and all, now the execution is required to be triggered from outside of the IDE. And if you don't know how to run the Java program, or let's say how to compile the Java program for that matter from outside of the IDE, then it would be like your life will really become hell. Because I have got many questions like this. I like the people contact me with these kinds of questions. I'm getting the error, major minor version error. What is the problem? I never got this error while I was working on the script in Eclipse or IntelliJ or whatever, cannot find symbol, class not found and all. So these errors, if you are not aware of, it would be very difficult for you guys to set up the execution environment of your scripts. Okay, now we are successfully, we have compiled the program and we have got the class file, account demo class file we have got created here. Right now you can see the class file which has been created has got the name of the class. You can see the name of the file is account system demo, which we compiled, but the class file what we have got is with account demo. So what is point here to understand is the class file gets created with the name of the class, and the compiled code of this class goes in this class file. Okay, so this class file contains the compiled code of this class. Now we want to run it, right? So let's see how to run it. I'll just do CLS. Now for running, now what has happened is, let's understand. When we compile Java C, so what the compiler does, it converts this higher level language code into byte code. It doesn't convert it yet in the processor's native instruction set. Basically guys, the program, when you write any program in any language, don't get into any kind of language, but any language, the program contains the instructions, and those instructions are the instructions to the processor actually of your machine. So processor, when the processor runs those instructions, you get to see the output of your program. So every instruction which you write, it is meant for the processor, right? So that instruction is required to be understood by the processor, right? Now any program when you write in C, C++, Java, whatever language, C sharp as well. So basically any language when you use to write your program in, the compiler compiles the program or translates the program in from the higher level languages as like C, C++, Java, so which are meant to be understood by the human beings. Like we are able to read it, no? We are able to read it and we are able to make out like what is happening over here. Right, so this is what the higher level language is all about. Now when you compile the program, the compiler translates that program into the processor's native instruction set. Every processor has got its own language or instruction set, you can say. So the commands or statements or instructions you have written in your program, they get converted or translated into the processor's native instruction set. And when you get the object code, which is called an object code, the code which has been translated from higher level to the machine level. So that machine level code which has been translated or created is called an object code, and that object code is what you execute. Okay, now in C, C++, what happens when you compile the program, the compiler translates the program instructions into the processor's native instruction set. Now the problem with this approach is, let's understand, and then I will be explaining you. I had explained all these things in our previous sessions, but I'm again explaining these things to you because this is very important to understand. Now when like what happens is, like when you compile the C program, like let's assume that this is a C program and you have compiled it. Now the translation would be done and object code would be created, and that object code contains the processor native instruction set of this machine, which machine I'm using here for the compilation. Now let's say I want to program on Nikhil's machine, for example. Now if I take out this object code and put it on the Nikhil's machine or Parag's machine, let's say, if I take it out to the Parag's machine for execution, and Parag is using a different processor, different family processor who has got a different instruction set, then will my object code translated into the instruction set of my processor, will it work on the Parag's machines or Nikhil's machines which is using a different processor instruction set? No, it won't work, right? That's why C++ programs, they are not said to be portable. If I want to run this program on their machines, which is using a different processor, I need to take this I need to take this source code over there. I need to have the compilation being done there so that the code would be translated into the object code, and then only they would be able to execute. That's why C++ program compilation binds your program with your hardware, I mean the instruction set of your processor. This is not the case in Java as well as in C Sharp. I will be explaining you the compilation process of both of these languages. In Java, what happens when you compile the program, that is Java C, when you do it, and you do Java C, so the compiler doesn't convert the program into the native instruction set of the processor of your machine where you are doing the compilation. If it does it, it will again tide the program with the processor you have used to compile, and then you will find an issue in running the program on a different machine using a different processor, right? So what it does, what it converts it into, it converts it into one language like this. This is that language. And this language is called bytecode. Now this is called as intermediary language. Why it is intermediary? Because now you can see we are not able to understand here what is written, what is all these things. So it is not in a higher level language, because we are not, even if we see it, we are not able to understand what is going on. And also it is not yet the processor's native instruction set which the processor would be able to understand. So it is neither, it is in a state which is neither in a higher level nor in a lower level. So hence it is called as intermediate language, a language which is in between higher and lower, right? Now when you run the program, now this is very important.